All right, let's jump right in. The American Heart Association has just dropped its 2026 dietary guidance, and this is a critical update for every single one of us in clinical practice. In this quick briefing, we're going to boil down the key changes and the actionable advice you need to really, truly help your patients.
And just so you know where this is all coming from, our source is the AHA's official 2026 scientific statement, hot off the press, in circulation. So, this is the new evidence-based foundation for our clinical advice going forward.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with the why behind the new guidance. Then we'll cover the big picture principles. After that, we'll dive into the specifics, what to choose, what to cut back on, and we'll wrap it all up with the key clinical takeaways for your practice.
So, first things first, why the update? Well, this 2026 statement officially supersedes the 2021 guidance. It's designed to be a much more concise, food-based update that focuses directly on what works for reducing cardiovascular disease risk. It's all about practical application in a busy clinical setting.
And look, the AHA is not mincing words here. The core message is urgent, and it's crystal clear. Poor diet quality is a major driver of cardiovascular disease and death. This just elevates how important our nutritional counseling really is in patient care.
Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of specific foods, the new guidance really wants us to zoom out and focus on two foundational principles. And honestly, this is a crucial shift in how we should be talking about diet with our patients.
Okay, so the first principle is all about focusing on dietary patterns. We're moving away from, villainizing single foods or single nutrients. The focus now is on the sum of all parts, the entire diet, because nutrients work together. A pattern-based approach is just way more effective and, for your patient, a lot more sustainable in the long run.
And the second big principle, the life course approach. This is so critical because, as we know, the process of atherosclerosis can start way back in childhood. So our guidance isn't just for adults who already have risk factors. It's about building heart-healthy patterns early on to create a lifelong trajectory of lower risk.
So what does a heart-healthy pattern actually look like? Well, the AHA has boiled down all the evidence into these 9 core features. Think of this as your clinical checklist. It covers everything from energy balance and food groups to processing, added sugars, sodium, and alcohol. This right here, this is the core of the new guidance.
All right, now let's break these 9 features down, starting with what we should be encouraging our patients to choose, what they should be putting on their plates.
This graphic from the AHA is a fantastic tool for patient education. It clearly visualizes the core components. We're talking about a plate that's just loaded with vegetables and fruits, healthy proteins, whole grains instead of refined ones, and good unsaturated fats like plant oils.
Let's just zero in on protein for a second, because the guidance here is really nuanced. The recommendation isn't about the quantity of protein, it's all about the source. It's the whole package, right? The types of fats that come with it, the fiber, the amino acids. Plant proteins, for example, they often come bundled with beneficial fiber and unsaturated fats, a package deal that a lot of animal proteins just don't have.
So the bottom line for counseling patients is this. You want to encourage a shift toward plant-based proteins, things like legumes and nuts. Recommend they regularly eat fish and seafood for those omega-3s. Advise them to choose low-fat or fat-free dairy. And if they're going to eat red meat, the guidance is clear. Choose lean cuts, avoid processed forms completely, and really limit those portion sizes.
Okay, so that's what we want more of. Now let's flip the coin and look at the other side. What should we be advising patients to minimize or even avoid?
And this part of the infographic shows the stuff to limit. We're talking about minimizing added sugars, cutting way back on sodium, avoiding those ultra-processed foods, and limiting or just avoiding alcohol. Helping patients spot these things in their daily diet, like all the sugar hiding in drinks or the sodium in canned soups, that's a huge counseling opportunity.
Yeah, this distinction between minimally processed and ultra-processed foods, it's a huge point of emphasis. Minimally processed foods are basically whole foods, close to how you'd find them in nature. But ultra-processed foods, they're industrial formulations. And the evidence linking a high intake of these to bad health outcomes, including CVD, is now just incredibly strong.
And speaking of strong evidence, let's talk about sugar for a second. The data here is, it's stunning. Adults who get 25% or more of their daily energy from added sugars have a nearly threefold, that's 3x, higher risk of dying from cardiovascular disease compared to those who keep it under 10%. That's a powerful statistic to share with patients. Now, the guidance on alcohol is about as direct and unambiguous as it gets. If alcohol is not consumed, do not start. This reflects a pretty big shift in the evidence. Those older studies might not have fully accounted for other lifestyle factors, and newer data suggests that any tiny perceived benefit is just dwarfed by the known harms, like increased blood pressure. So for those who do drink, the advice remains the same. Limit your intake.
Okay, as we start to wrap up, let's really focus on the clinical benefits. Why is this dietary pattern so powerful? Well, because the benefits extend far beyond just cardiology.
Well, for one, adopting this pattern helps patients get their essential nutrients from actual food, not from supplements. It's naturally super high in fiber. It also inherently limits dietary cholesterol and saturated fat. And this is a big one, this advice aligns perfectly with recommendations for managing other major chronic conditions like type 2 diabetes and kidney disease. It's really a comprehensive strategy for overall health.
So I'll leave you with this question to take back to your practice. When you look at these 9 features, from shifting protein sources to cutting out ultra-processed foods, which one presents the single biggest opportunity for change and improvement in the patients you see every single day?